we Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Ask Jewel. We have our guest expert here today, and thank you so much for your time. I so adore this woman and appreciate her, and she's here to help us just connect deeper with our bodies, listen to them, use her expertise and her life knowledge and wisdom so we all can be better humans. Just one baby step at a time, one baby step at a time. So before we get started, let's just maybe take a second to kind of ground in, just because we have that technology thing. So if you all don't mind, let's just take like 3 to 5 deep breaths, settle into our space, into our physical bodies, shake off technology. 2 more deep breaths for good luck, because we have St. Patrick's Day coming up. Isn't that amazing how quick that feels? Like it's that, like it can be just that simple, and it can feel so like I'm in a whole different temperament and state, even from those beautiful deep breaths. Yeah. So just, I have to share this fun story because it's just too fun, and Dave will appreciate it. The first time I met Jewel was one of our best friends' birthdays, and up walks this woman, and I'm like, why have I not met her, and why isn't she not my friend? I just loved her aura, and I already was like full of beautiful aura friends. I didn't know there was more beautiful aura friends out there, and then this woman walks up. We then proceeded to go jump on a sailboat and sail till the sun came up for our friend's birthday. Something about the bartender owning a sailboat, right, Jewel?
Always. And don't forget, it was a full moon, and it was this weird bioluminescence. So we all went swimming, and it was like magical. It was glow in the dark seaweed.
Remember me doing a flip off the boat? So I do a flip off the boat. I think I was the first one in, which we're not surprised. And we're underneath the Coronado Bridge, and I do a flip, and then I come up, and everyone's looking at me like really weird. I was glowing. I was glowing from the effervescence, and we were all, then all I remember, my recollection, is everyone just jumped in right out. Like we all just, like at the same time. That's what my memory was. And we didn't want to get out of the water. We just wanted to stay there, which we practically did till sunrise.
We really did, yeah.
We really did. So this is our guest expert when I met her, and I now get to bring her in for more sharing and sharing to my people. And this will be a part of anytime you do any of my programs, you have access to this information, because I think it's just so valuable, and we can never not learn enough. So these will be my guest expert interviews that will always be there for everybody. So here's Jewel. Her beautiful company, of course, can't be anything named but Jewel Healing Lotus. Jewel in the Lotus Healing. How cool is that? And she is a jewel, and she's such a gem. And of course, she studies acupuncture and got her an herbalist credentials here in California. And she's from Bronx, New York, right? Or is that where you're from? Or is that where you went to college?
I'm from a little town called Warwick, New York, but I went to college. I did my undergrad at Fordham University in the Bronx.
Cool.
And it was pretty hardcore. So I'm just happy. Every time I think about those times, I'm like, I made it out alive. The Bronx is a joke. But it was fun. It was amazing campus and a really great experience. And I came out here just to go to acupuncture school, but then I never went back. It's just easy living out here.
It is easy living. Yeah, very easy living. Easier. No wonder you carry yourself on the streets so well then, because of the Bronx. So
yeah, you have to be street smart, and I wasn't, and that is the scary part. I guess I learned, but a little bit.
And now Jewel does acupuncture out of her home in the back of her house there in South Park. And I just referred one of my friends to come to you, and you were on her insurance.
Good.
I'm so excited. And Jewel I was happy for that too. And then Jewel strives to offer her clients relief as well as tools to empower themselves and take control of their healing. So you can tell why we have kindred spirits, because we're all wanting We all need the tools. Like when we have relationship issues, financial issues, just more tools, the better, that we can then learn how we can apply for ourselves. So
I know. I always tell my clients, I'm like, I love you. I want you to come to me forever. Please don't get me wrong. But my main goal is not that, unfortunately. I want you how to empower yourself. And I think, it's all about, finding the tools within yourself first and foremost. And then, of course, knowing when to resource out. And
yeah,
there is a huge relief for so many people. And I'm excited to kind of share. I'm not a traditional I studied
Mm-hmm.
TCM, but I also mix so many other Ayurvedic and mantra, and Epsom salt baths, and a lot about Western supplements, and of course healing through nutrition, which is a big thing. And I know that that's your main focus. So it's
Yeah.
wonderful. Food is medicine.
It is, right? And then one thing we focus on too is like that self-trust and not being in our head and being more in our body with like, oh wow, you know what? An apple felt good yesterday and today it doesn't feel as good. And with no judgment, but from a place of like a deeper sense of connection too, is what we work on as I throw out nutrition ideas, but the deeper sense is that intuition, that piece of sourdough bread sounds great, even though the glutens are horrible. But once, like that total acceptance. So
yeah, I had a teacher once tell me
ooh.
that less of it. This was really, and this is kind of mind blowing, but it's less about the nutrition. It's more about how you feel about the food that you're eating. I mean, that's mind blowing. He was like, you can get more nutrition out of birthday cake. I'm sorry if this is not in alignment with what you teach. But he's like, you're in love with cake and you're so excited and you're eating it than a bowl of, brown rice with no salt, no seasonings, and steamed veggies. If you hate it and you're not excited.
That's my whole program.
I love that, because it's following your intuition. It's like, you know what? If I have a bite of this birthday cake, it's not going to kill me. I'm going to be excited about it.
Our bodies are too smart. Brilliant.
Yes.
I think I just put that quote. I think it actually wasn't from a child. It was, you can having more stress around healthy food is worse than having just plain old junk food. I think I just posted this or someone sent it to me.
Yes.
And I think it was from like an ancient Chinese, it was like an ancient Chinese proverb. And I saw it and I was like, with my work, our perspective can just throw that judgment, and no matter what it is, then we're in that state of fight or flight and stress. So, wow. Well, there we go. That's our interview. We're done. So basically we have the body clock that I want to go over too, but I would love to learn more about like what still blows your mind and astounds you about the human body. Like when you work with someone, what just still like causes you just to be amazed and astounded by the human body?
God, I feel like I don't want to like cry. It's just, the human body is really astounding. I think, in theory, what astounds me the most is just the biology of belief and how much the mind, unfortunately and fortunately, can control our bodies and our health and well-being. I would say what kind of keeps me so in love with my clients and in love with my job is what people think they're coming in with acupuncture is not always what shows up within a session. And I think there's a little question at the bottom of my sheet. I ask about digestion, energy, and menstrual cycle, and men's health, sexual health if it comes up, of course. Fertility is a big one, obviously, for a lot of women and men. But there's a little question at the bottom that's emotions, emotional health and well-being. And I try to, especially when it's a first client, I always establish a more of a rapport before I'm just like, hey, let's talk about your psychologically, let's talk about your stress and emotion. I mean, stress is always, sometimes people do come in with mental health things and talking about anxiety or just stress in general. But when we get to the emotional part, it's like, well, is there any emotion that's coming up for you? And that always blows me away, because it'll be like, oh yeah, no, I have this arm pain, or I'm a CrossFitter and I just did a little bit too much overhead shoulder. And you get to that question, it's like, this is the juice. This is the real stuff. Not that the story and the other stuff is not real, but the underneath is what always astounds me and blows me away, because that to me plays such a huge role, like so much more than I can even verbalize in this moment.
Yeah.
And once you can kind of get through some of that stuff, usually the branches, like the root, it's the root of the tree. When you really work on the root, the branches are like, oh wow, and now we're growing fruit and we're happy. Our leaves are green and our branches are full. And so it's, yeah, that I would say if I had to choose one or two or three things, like the emotional based stuff, when people can really just confront it and be really and honest.
Well, you're talking to David and David on our, was it last month or the month before? I said something about emotional eating. I said something, I was like, oh, I don't know, when anybody here emotionally eat, and we all kind of laughed, right? We had this moment of laughter. David goes, is there another way to eat besides emotionally? Still, I'm like, I can't stop making that. Like, it was so beautiful. And it almost like I could feel the group, right, David? The group just kind of like, we like all just kind of surrender, like relaxed into that, like a relief, like, oh yeah, we all are all on this together with this emotion. And then David is one of the most amazing EFT tapper practitioners in the world. He's one of the best. So he's like, I love listening to him talk about how he processes it with people through speak and tapping too. I think it's his words even just as much as the tapping.
And it's acupressure.
It's all pressure. Oh, look, funny. Yeah. Of course you guys know that. Yeah. I figured this one was. I figured that.
I believe they all are, right?
They all are. Yep.
Are they?
Exactly. Yeah, they're all meridians. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's so, I love the idea of the biology of belief. Wow.
Oh, I wrote that. I typed that in like 1 second.
Wow. And it's so true. Oh my goodness. It's the power of it, isn't it? Remarkable.
Mm-hmm. It's a little scary because I know, and I mean, this is like everybody, and now we're being so inundated with just meditate. Right. And it's like, okay, what does that mean? And I think a lot of people get really confused by it, or just they think it's a little bit of a cliche, and I actually think it is too at this day and age. But I think, yeah, when you can kind of control, or I don't even know if I want to use the word control, but
I know what you mean.
Just awareness of the monkey mind and how much that those little voices are controlling our everyday thoughts, and our thoughts really make us in it to an extent. And so if we can just kind of peel back and kind of pull back on some of the monkeys that are like, yeah, what do I want to do today, and the ego. And but I think so many people, and even me, like I get bi-weekly acupuncture, not twice a week, but every other week. I get a lot of acupuncture, and it's just so interesting, the accountability portion, I think too, and just doing the intake and just saying, where are you at? Because who else asks you that? I mean, maybe your partner does, maybe your best friend, maybe your kids, but not really.
And that intake is like permission to even focus on yourself. Like my clients do a pretty long intake too, and that's the beginning of the process. They're like, I can't believe what came up for me when you asked that, and I do community acupuncture, which, my friend owns Hillcrest Acupuncture. So that's where I sneak in. Yeah, Sasha. But now she just sold it to a beautiful couple. So I just sneak in, but of course we know I'll go when I need more one-on-one. But I swear he'll test my pulse, Oscar will, and look at me in the eye and it's like, how is your emotion? I'll be like, I don't know. Like just that moment of connection with a human being, like taking interest and compassion and seeing you and holding, like just being there for your emotion to reveal itself. Like right when he does my pulse, I'm like, oh, I'm cared for. Yeah.
Touch. It's the first. Touch. The pulse usually is the first sensation where you're like, okay, I'm being held. Like someone cares. It's such an interesting, and I don't want to say, okay, Chinese medicine is so beautiful and it's old and there's just it's so rich, but I will say the power of even just like how you said, holding space, holding compassionate space, listening to someone, I mean, the rest is an add-on, you know what I mean? I love Chinese medicine, but it's also like how someone can listen to you and let you know that you're cared for and that you matter, and like that in and of itself is worth its weight in gold, you know?
That's where you can sneak in your human physical touch, David, is have to go to acupuncture every day and make them touch you.
Exactly.
It's a transaction, but it works.
I'm not even going to go there. That's all good.
I love it.
So true. So true. I actually had an interesting conversation today, to your point. And I would love to be more into yoga, and someday I hope to be. But I never realized that she said she's in this advanced yoga, and literally 50%, 60%, 70% are on their mats crying, just releasing this emotion.
Whoa.
It blows my mind. So when do we have that opportunity to feel that release? And that's what you're providing, is that beautiful opportunity to be authentic, to be vulnerable. It's so wonderful, really wonderful.
To be cared for. I think
Yeah.
we forget how it feels, like the motherly. It's funny being having a baby in the belly right now, but it is like people want that womb-like feeling, and you don't get it again. I mean, you really have to work hard to feel that feeling of like, it's okay to let go. I give myself permission to be, and just to be in this space and let someone else take care of me, and kind of like that in itself it breaks a lot of walls down.
And then that doesn't work in the Bronx, right?
Are what we've created in our head, and I think, yeah, that brings us back to like the monkey mind part. Is it's scary how the biology belief, it's scary because if your beliefs are assimilated in a certain fashion where it's like, oh yeah, there's actually no breaking through this because that you believe that you are sick. Or a Western doctor. I know so many people, and a lot of my clients, they go to their doctor because they want to diagnose. It's like they're sick of feeling like, can I say shit?
Yeah, you totally, of course, please, absolutely.
Like shit. And so they're like, I want the doctor to check my blood and tell me I'm diabetic, or like that I have an autoimmune disease. And it's like, I always tell people, wait, before you get that diagnosis, like really peel back and kind of check in with your beliefs. Because once you get the diagnosis, that is what you believe. And that is so hard / I don't want to say impossible, because nothing's impossible.
No,
it's really hard to peel it back once you have a diagnosis and a doctor tells you like, sorry, it is what it is. Or so yeah, it ties in well with the autoimmune. I know you have questions.
No, perfect. I was just thinking of the good old half cup, your cup's half full or half empty, like just that perspective. Like I think with all the work that we do of holding space with compassion, and I believe and trust the human body so much. Like my first inkling was that when I got to see people with complete paralysis walk again. So my old beliefs, I was like, oh wow, what else is in there that I don't want to believe anymore? And so like, even if I have a client that's like, oh, I have gallstones, I only believe the gallbladder will get better until it proves until there's another situation that arises. So the fears gripping, which fear can grip all of us. I mean, that's what we have to play with. Oh, wow, what am I fearful of? And what belief is that attaching to that fear of my gallbladder or health or other things in life?
Yeah.
And what do you think about the body and autoimmune too? Like, because autoimmune is running rampant right now, and I get so many questions. And what do you think's going on in our emotional, physical, spiritual, environmental bodies that are creating this?
Yeah, I think there's a lot. There's a couple different layers going on. Obviously, with how Western looks at it, according to the National Institute of Health and the World Health Organization, there's the genetic, the environmental, the hormonal, immunological. But they say, I think they're saying like 50 to 80% now of autoimmune is due to unknown factors, which
wow.
I know.
I did not hear that. I have not heard that.
Yeah. And they're doing a lot of retrospective studies where they study patients who have already been diagnosed with an autoimmune, and they're coming up with crazy information that I think it's 70 to 80% of people who get diagnosed are report uncommon emotional stress before the onset of disease. And obviously stress comes in so many different forms, right? It could be, our boss, it could be emotional stuff. We don't know how they're defining stress, but we know that there's something there, that the body's in a fight or flight response. So the shifting from the parasympathetic, where we all want to be, to sympathetic is the fight or flight, where it's, our bodies are just in basically crunch time. If we are being chased, we are going to die if we don't kind of attack or whatever it is. So I feel like with acupuncture, my biggest thing is, let's get you out of sympathetic.
Yeah, totally.
And that's yoga and obviously breathing, meditation. There's other things that can do it, but I just will talk about acupuncture because that's what you're interested on. That's my paradigm, Chinese medicine. But I am also really open to say it's not the end all be all. There are so many things that are helpful, and there are autoimmune diseases that it's like, what, we do need Western intervention. There's some that you don't right away. And I think that getting Western is amazing with the diagnostic tools, but they're not always the greatest. It's not my first choice to treat with prescription drugs. But in terms of the diagnostics, like, okay, yes, you have these antibodies. Okay, yes, you have cortisol's off the chart, your adrenaline, like, let's peel this back.
Peel it back.
Sometimes it is there when we need it. Like in terms of diabetes, for example, it's like, if your sugar's at a 600, you do need insulin, and that type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, right. At 600, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. But there are a lot of things that are considered autoimmune disease that it's, let's just say rheumatoid arthritis, where you don't necessarily need to go on the pills right away. And we can control pain through diet, exercise, mental things. So the other thing that I think is wildly interesting about autoimmune is that the nature of an autoimmune disease is that the body is, in a sense, attacking itself. And whenever you hear that, whenever a person gets that news, I think you go into a mode of, why is my body attacking? Like, you feel like your body let you down in some way, shape, or form. Or
Disappointment
is huge. Feeling betrayal, and feeling really like just let down. And getting back to a space of self-love, restoring balance, loving your body and loving yourself. It's a self-love practice, but loving yourself after you've attacked yourself or betrayed yourself, even if you understand that, it was because I had all these other external factors going on, and I understand why my body betrayed me in that moment, but that can be a hurdle to wrap your head around.
Absolutely. I love how you worded that. I love how you set us up to see how big of a hurdle that is.
Yeah, it's huge. I don't want to say it's everything, but I think that when there's a split, anytime there's like a psychological, emotional, energetic split where you're trying to be healthy, but there's a betrayal in the space of your field, you really integrate and work on the self-love piece again, and just kind of bring it all back to the heart center and just say, okay, this happened and I'm not happy about it, or I'm not, and work. And I don't want to also say like, be like the Pollyanna and just
say, everything will be fine. Yeah, no.
At all.
No,
you don't. And you're pissed and you're sad.
Yeah.
So processing all those emotions in a real way, but then and crying it out and being disappointed, but then kind of back to the empowerment, saying like, where am I going to go from here? Because I'm not to deal with this victimization in my space.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it is so cool.
Wow. I love how you worded that. That was great.
You know, it's me, but it's also, I work with so
No.
many amazing clients that are ready, willing, and able. And I process this with them and through them. And it's so humbling to see people that are really sick working it out.
Right.
A lot of courage to look at, like, okay, it's easy sometimes to go, well, the doctor told me I'm just going to take this pill, so that's what I'm going to do. It's not making me feel amazing. It's really sometimes hard to go the route of empowerment, and just say, how can I best serve myself right now? So that's really where I work with people. And it could just be, are you feeling disappointed right now? And are you mad at yourself? Do you hate yourself? Or is there self-hatred in your space? Because a lot of people no one will talk to their Western doctor about that unless you want to be put on.
They might throw you in that institute. Yeah. Well,
yeah. So I think that being just a holding space for people to be honest with what's coming up in terms of that.
That's why I love that.
Self-love.
That self-love, like speaking of self-love and body too, like that little chart I gave you, I've been using this chart from Comfy Tummy. Thank you, Comfy Tummy. We'll give them love, but maybe someday we'll make our own together. But why I loved it was Chinese medicine, correct, right? That every 2 hours was the organ. And then it was self-care on it. So here, I'll share it really quick. And did you have anything you wanted to like add on or that you loved about it?
Well, it's so funny because, not funny even, but it's, you know, our medical system is more like disease care versus
right.
healthcare. But I have to say, even studying Chinese medicine, we never looked at it. I mean, we had sometimes where it was like, okay, yes, solve your problems and get organized. I had one teacher that was like, why do you think most dates are between the time of 7 to 9? And that's when most people have sex, because that's socialized, flirt, and fun. Like, I love that.
Yeah, have sex, right?
However, when I was in school, we did focus on the fact that, you know, each meridian is more active during those specified times. But I love how you use this as a way to kind of keep your clients checked in, because when I was in school, we did not learn it. We almost more use this as a diagnostic tool, which is a different way. Obviously, it's different to diagnose versus looking at health, but we would kind of say like, okay, if, you know, someone's having stomach stuff, it's going to be worse at like between 7 and 9 a.m. Or if someone's awake, if someone's awake, how we really used it was like, if someone's up at between the hours of 1 to 3 a.m., we need to course and tonify their liver qi. If someone's awake at 3 to 5, they might have some grief going on, or what's going on with their lungs that we need to
grief.
work on.
I love that. That one's a big one. I didn't go to my 4 years of acupuncture school. We'll come back. We can come back to that. I didn't do my 4 years of acupuncture school. So this was my cheat sheet when my clients journal and they kept having repetitive things at certain times of the day. This is what I was using to kind of like see what's going on the bigger picture. And then I was like, why am I not sharing this? So I started sharing it. I was like, well, this is my fun tool to help you guys, you know, keep checking in and help us uncover some things that are going on at 3 o'clock, like the time of here in California, this is our siesta time, you know, or a little bit more like downtime. I think it says drink tea here, but this clock I love it that it's just another self-care tool instead of us always being reactive to what's going on outside of us, being more reflective of what's going on inside of us.
Absolutely. And also really, I mean, some of the stuff is simple. Like it may, you know, it's not mind-blowing, but it's still really powerful. Like I know, you know, if you can get to bed between like around 10 o'clock, that is the best time for the kidneys and the adrenals there's that little note on here that's like,
Yeah. I know it is. It's so cute. But I can't wait for you and I to create another one too, because we can add on some other nutritional things. Or I do a lot with cravings too. Like, oh, hey, we're craving sugar at this time. What else is going on in the body? What else is your body needing? Or what's going on that's overstressing it and over challenging it too.
absolutely. But yeah, I love this.
Okay, cool.
And also like the work study, drink tea, and because a lot of people will have that lull. Like I always hear like around 3:30 is when people are, oh man, and it is hard, but like drink tea and just kind of relax for a minute.
The English knew what they were doing, right? They were drinking tea.
Yeah, all the time.
Well, wonderful. David, do you have any questions or any comments or anything else? We can kind of make it more conversational. I just want to get those couple topics because I get those questions all the time. So why not ask the experts those questions too? So then the more input we get.
Yeah, I love that. I guess my question, based on, now that I'm an intuitivarian, even though I can hardly say it.
I know, we're playing with that. I'm playing with that.
I'm looking at the clock, and so because we are all tuning into what our yeses are,
Mm-hmm.
is it the case that all of our clocks are the same?
Ooh, good question.
That is.
Take it away, Jewel.
So I would say absolutely not, that not all clocks are the same, but in terms of the flow of chi and energy and in rhythms.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing is what Heather was kind of stating on before, like if you're not getting a yes in your body, like an apple might have felt great at 7 a.m. yesterday, but today it's not.
Right.
All of these organ systems are so complex, and there's colors and there's emotions involved. And this is just like a little snapshot. This is like a cute, I put it out because
you're so cute. Looks so good.
I was like, this is so adorable. Yeah, and I wanted to be able to see it and read it. Yeah. But I would say no. I would say that this is a guide, like anything, right? It's a general guideline. But if you're truly getting a no on any of these things, like take your vitamins at this time. No, I don't want to take my vitamins in the evening. Then absolutely, you really need to follow that. And, I will say that sometimes the yes and the no is tricky, because sometimes we have to ask ourselves, what is saying yes right now? What is saying no? Is it fear? Is it self-love? And so I think if you kind of just get really clear on why anything's a no, like if something feels like, oh man, I'm hearing this all over the place, that I should be doing this at this time. I should be getting to bed.
Right. Shit on you.
11, but for some reason I'm just a night owl and I don't like that. I think that sometimes it's like just our patterning or our biology or our history of just what were our bodies used to. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're out of health, but it also doesn't necessarily mean that those are things that we're kind of addicted to are really what we're craving deeply. So that's kind of like the interesting thing. I remember learning a long time ago that even the word sin just it's an arrow term that means it's off your mark. And I feel
that's cool.
so powerful, because it's like one else can really tell you when you're off your mark. They can just kind of say, "Hey, David, do you feel like you might be a little off with this, or can I offer another suggestion?"
Yeah.
To try it this way, but really only truly know what's the best for you. And so I think that's why it's a little bit scary when so many people give their power away to doctors, or it's like the white coat syndrome and this is said, and my doctor told me this, and it's like, oh my God, get a second opinion. But,
I love the yes and no. David and I I'm sure we all can relate to this one. I play with the rebel a lot. The rebel will sometimes in me be like, oh yeah, you want that, and then I'll go, oh. And so I've been the work of being compassionate with all aspects of yourself.
And I love how you were saying, and why do you want it? What time is that coming
What's going on? Yeah.
Yes. It's an emotional thing. Is it because you're tired, or you're feeling a little sad, or whatever it is, and just being really honest with yourself. Not that will change. You might still
have it. still and own it, more ownership around it too, instead of the judging. Of course, like that's the main, I would say that's probably my main purpose of my whole program, is to release and relieve all guilt and judgment around this control around eating and obsessive eating, like this perfection game. And that, I mean, I remember the day I can let that go a little bit more. And then I actually could feel my true yes. Like, oh, wow, I do know more than I know, and I do know how to feed myself and nourish myself. So we use the word nourish, and then intuitivarian is my fun word of us trusting ourselves when we know we want to eat more vegetarian or eat more meat, instead of judging, trying to be one or the other. So I'm kind of letting people find their own path with all of that, instead of.
I love that. We'd say the word one more time.
Intuitivarian.
Intuitivarian. That's amazing. I know. I gave say it, and I was like, "Whoa!"
I know. I'm playing with it. It's not catching on yet, but it is. It is, and it isn't. So, and then Dr. Hyman just came up with pegan, paleo-vegan. So, pegan, which sounds like pagan to me. And then there's flexitarian is the other popular one too. Flexitarian. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I just don't want anybody shitting on themselves anymore. I shitted on myself and was obsessive forever about food and studied it, obviously, forever. And now I'm like, can't we just all be a little more playful and more, and then David and I, we do a lot of compassion work too. So more compassionate with ourselves as we keep learning and evolving.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Anything else, David? Anybody want to add more, or did I miss any of my questions? Autoimmune.
I actually have a great example that I would love to hear both of your opinions of. I had a session today with a client that has MS, and she talking about shooting yourself, right? And I think, Heather, I kind of have alluded to her in the past because, oh my goodness, she's against the whole world. Her whole support group is all about take the drugs, hand yourself over, and she's been resistant to it. She met me through looking for an EFT practitioner, and so we had a really to me it was a very powerful session, and she has finally decided to incorporate nutrition into her treatment.
Right. Good.
So very exciting, because
that's cool.
That's been that I've been gently bending that tree now for a year, and I don't really practice that long with people ordinarily, but this is an exception. And so she said what we tapped around, and she finally came up with this belief, and the belief is that she was diagnosed 15 years ago, and that it's too late for the nutrition.
Ooh, I got goosebumps. Ooh, I just got goosebumps. Oh man, right. Whoa.
And whoa. And I think, again, it's so challenging to, first of all, be aware of those. She wasn't even aware that I don't think that was I think that was a subconscious thing that was coming
Totally.
up.
Right?
But then you talk about the biology of belief. So I would love to hear more about that and how you see it positively and negatively manifesting in your practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's exactly, that's a beautiful example.
Wow.
And I jump in because my grandmother had MS, but I read a ton of interesting studies about cruciferous vegetables with multiple. I don't know if you've heard of that. Yeah, the probiotics, just getting kraut, and so you just want to get the body less inflamed. I think in all cases of autoimmune disease or disorder, there is inflammation. And so whether it's, stress or the food allergens, sensitivity, gluten, dairy, sugar, alcohol, the big ones, additives, toxins, infections, but the imbalance of gut bacteria. Now they're doing so many different, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's so many different companies now that's you poop, you send this in, and they can what kind of healthy gut bacteria you're lacking in. But those are some of the main main things that I would offer her, just because it can help her body get out of inflammation. And even if you're not, you know, quote unquote curing anything, you're helping manage the symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's, for me, I think that's one of the main ways it manifests in the clinic, is that someone goes to a Western doctor and it's scary. Western doctors, it can be really scary. It's like diagnostic. It's when am I gonna, not about, hey, how can we get you the healthiest version of you? It's not tailored to individual. And so I see a lot of emotional, like we were talking about before, emotional component with the biology belief. And I think that once you can shift that, and even if someone doesn't believe it, and this is where things get a little bit tricky, but for her, for example, I think saying, if you can help her retrain her brain a little bit and saying, now the perfect time, I'm getting everything I need right now, and focus on this moment. And you just shift a little bit of that. It doesn't have to be this mind-blowing thing. It's her own belief system that she was able to recognize.
And she shined the light on it. You shine the light on that too. Like that, you guys caught that in there.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's
too late. What else is too late for her too? Like what else?
Oh my goodness.
That's what I'm hearing too. Like what else is too late? The integrative doctor I worked with said something so profound about MS and fibromyalgia back in the day when I worked with him. He's like, well, it's like their cells don't want to absorb the sweetness of life. And he was a MD, medical doctor, but we were integrative. And I just looked at him and I got it both on a chemistry and an emotional level. And I have a family member who actually has MS too. And she had a cake making company. Talk about sweetness of life. And she just sold, like she almost had to like overcompensate, and then she just sold it because of her MS is getting really challenging. So it's just, when he said that, I'll never forget, it was about 12 years ago, just that their cells something about their cells not absorbing the sweetness of life. Right. And then the cells manifest into the inflammation that challenges the nerves, or insert blank. Yeah. How does that resonate? Does that resonate at all with you, Jewel?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
100%. Yeah, the sweetness of life. And I think that on some level, like how we were talking about the self-love and how the body attacks, to me that all ties together, because when you believe that you're not deserving of the sweetness, or your body doesn't, you know, it's too late for you, or you're too old,
too late.
You're not good enough, not worthy. Those are like the constant themes that come up over and over. And David, I'm sure you see that with doing emotional work with people. It's like, what's the base belief here? There's all this other stuff that's out here, but then it's like, are you feeling like you just are not deserving? Or and so I think when you can, like you did, shine the light and really kind of have someone go, oh, okay, I'm gonna shift that right now and start saying I am worthy. And whether you have to write it on the mirror, or you know, I actually have a heart balm that you rub into your heart, and they all have different on it. It's really, really, really cool. I put all these herbs, like heart healing herbs, and to like energetically fill in the cracks, because we all have cracks. Like life is just tricky. Our parents, nobody's perfect, but we get these weird belief systems.
How can we find your heart
balm? What'd you say?
How do we find your heart balm?
It's on my website. It's on my website.
Is there a link that you can mail it and everything too?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll get the link. The heart balm link. Okay, keep going on that. Sorry to interrupt, but.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, a very interesting little, because I feel like I am pretty aware of it, but yesterday my son was driving me a little bit crazy, and he's 2, and I just holding him, and I'm like, you're too much, and I had to catch myself. I'm like, I do not want to instill that belief in him, but we get these beliefs.
Goosebumps. Oh, that you caught that.
Because you don't do, as a parent, like, I'm doing the best I can. I'm like this trying to walk to breakfast with a flippin' crazy 2-year-old. He was a little too much in the moment, but as a being, he is my love. Like, he's not too much. But when you get your brain, and this is biology of belief, right? It's like you get these messages from your parents when you're little, and they're not meaning to hurt you. But if you don't have a parent who is willing to say, oh, wow, I said that to you and I didn't mean it that way, we take it in ourselves, and whether we're not absorbing sweetness because we're too much, or we're not enough, or we weren't
Yeah.
enough in whatever, like when we were little. And I'm not saying every autoimmune or disorder comes from in the womb or when you're younger, but I do think that it can affect you
Lay
and
the
how
foundation. It can lay the plant the seed to then fester into whichever genetic possibility that you might have, like a little bit more weaker link. You know, my digestion was my weak link, and then it took more time to get it to build. And some people have bad knees. They're little weak links that we can then go, wow, what else is linked to that
yeah.
in my life? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then I'll just say kind of one more thing about
Please.
Chinese things. I feel like I haven't really talked a ton about it.
That's
But
fine.
that
This was better.
all of these organs,
Yes.
so they're all paired, and
Oh,
they
good.
all
Yes.
related with them as well.
Good.
So for example, the stomach and the spleen is the emotion of worry. So if someone comes in and they're really over worrying and they're having a really hard time, stomach and spleen. The heart, small intestine, pericardium, and the triple burner, those are all joy, or if there's a deficiency there. Bladder and kidneys is fear. So someone's coming in with a lot of fear, which makes sense, right? Because kidneys, we know about kidneys and the adrenal, the adrenals basically sit on top of the kidneys, but you want to work with like that root chakra and telling people, I am here, I am safe, it is safe for me to exist. Large intestine and lungs is grief. So a lot of times when someone's grieving, they'll have, let's just say, they're up at between 3 and 5, for example, according to the clock, or there can be constipation. Like there's this trouble letting go. So the large intestine and lung is exhale, how we excrete our bowels. It's like this, how are we letting go of things that are not serving us? And then liver and gallbladder is anger, actually. So irritability and anger, which we all know, we look at it as a bad emotion, but really anger can be such a catalyst and being irritable, able to speak your truth. So that's also just another way about how
That's so cool.
emotions are directly related to all of these beautiful organs. I know sometimes when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a lot, but they are paired together.
I see that. So the liver and gallbladder are paired, right?
Yes.
And then I
liver,
also
gallbladder, large intestine, stomach,
yeah, every two.
the heart, every two are.
That's so cool.
But then the pericardium and the triple burner are also they're fire, and as well as the heart and small intestine. So these kind of 4 correlate.
Cool. I actually also heard too something about the acrostum too, like the liver and the small intestine are related, or am I making that up? I've always been more curious about that. So
there are interrelations. So it's basically how things can overpower and
overpower. Ooh.
Yes.
Cool.
So everything, the whole body is related. And I think that that's like essentially when you get to this little dot right here in the middle, like it is all connected. It is all related. The ways in which the organs relate are very, very, very interesting, because one can be deficient and one can be overactive, and then you'll have these specific set of symptoms. Fascinating, because you have to tell one, hey, like we are quieting you down. You need to tonify the other one. So you're constantly like Chinese medicine's all about just balance.
That's so cool. Synergistic.
Where do you much in your body? Where is there not enough? And how can we get you back to
which one would be overpowering the thyroid right now? There's so many people with thyroid issues too. What would be overpowering the thyroid, or what would you just describe about that too, generally?
So it's very funny when Chinese medicine people do not look at, we don't look at disorders. Like if you say, I'm coming for migraines.
Yeah.
Your version of a migraine is completely different than another David's version of a migraine. So even though technically I'm listening to you and I'm definitely going to treat the fact that you are having pain in your head, the root of the pain could be completely different.
Nice.
So in terms of thyroid disorder, like for me, it's obviously like upper burner. It could be coming from heart. It could be coming from speaking truth, lung stuff. So there's a lot of different things it could be, but I do think, and there is definitely, I mean, along with the autoimmune stuff, I think a lot of that, it just starts with inflammation, right? So it's like, what are these
Yeah.
people?
Mhm.
Are they stressed? Are they this? And that has less to do with Chinese medicine necessarily than just to kind of do with like the overall epidemic of what's going on. But in terms of Chinese medicine, we would never give a blanket statement of, oh, this is
Beautiful.
overpowering, that leads to
Okay, good. Okay,
always.
cool.
Um,
I love how
but
you
yeah, I would
look at it
say,
though. You look at it from such a comprehensive. So almost like the piece of advice to share with the world is don't run after each symptom. Like don't react and run after. Like I think that's what we're all running after. Like how can I fix this quick, put out this fire, and then there's 20 other fires going on behind us too.
oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
isn't that the struggle that I think so many people have with Western medicine is that they do run, you have a fever and let's just knock that bad boy out. You have
Yeah.
something going on in your chest that's heavy. Okay, we'll try to clear that symptom. And again, I love the idea of being mindful, as it were, with the root, or open to understanding it, perhaps even in this process,
Mm-hmm.
rather
Yeah,
than just looking for diagnosis.
chase your own tail with Western medicine
Right.
sometimes because you're on this medication, then you have side effects from the medication, and then you have to go on this one. It's like,
Interactions, yeah.
sometimes it is like we were talking about earlier. Sometimes it's this emotional belief, and you need to cry, and you need to be in physical touch. You're manifesting all this stuff out here that the doctors are like, I'm not sure why you have 17 different things going on and
Going
no
on.
energy. And yeah.
Mm.
So
And
again, I am not a poo-pooer of Western medicine because
no.
I love it. I think it's amazing. I think the diagnostic tools, again, and like when you need medicine or surgery, is 100%
Right.
thing. But I do think it's way over prescribed. And I think that if people, unless you're like seriously in a trauma or injured or you need a surgery right away, trying natural medicine before you do that is definitely, I know you guys are on board with this. I'm just
Yeah.
saying
For the rest of
because,
the world. Yeah.
for everybody. But yeah, I think that it's stating the obvious, but definitely trying the natural things first because they have no side effects.
Besides being open to experimenting with acupuncture, anything else you would want someone who, I just love acupuncture as a modality. I just like, my body loves it. I just receive it with just so much like bring it on type vibe, like bring it on. Anything else you would want to share with people, like little secrets on how to receive the treatment fully, like how to really integrate it into your life, and anything like when someone's on the table with you that you would want to share with us?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because I feel like it's so tailored to the individual. There's some
True.
people that are like kittens. They're like, touch me, pet me, love me. I don't care what you do now. Or they fall asleep and they don't
Yeah.
care. Like
Kittens.
I in the other room, they're just like, this is a date with myself and this is beautiful. And then there's
Perfect.
some people that come in and their body is like, I don't like to be touched. I don't really like to be massaged. I'm here because my doctor said maybe it would help. And so I think meeting people, for me as a practitioner, it's always meeting people where they're at. I'm never going to try to squeeze blood out of a stone. I'm never going to say, oh my God, this super tense person, like, you just need to breathe. Like, I hate when people say, just breathe, because it's hard. It's hard to just relax and just breathe. It is a skill that you have to teach yourself. But I will say some of the little tips and tools that I work with, I do a lot with, like, this is just my personal practice, but I have a table warmer, and I always have oil going and soft music, and I use infrared heat.
Oh,
And
cool.
I always do a little bit of massage before I put needles in. I work with people if it's really obvious that there's an emotional thing going on, or like if we've talked about it, I work with people right when they get on the table with just, let's do a little bit of their mantra. Like, I am here. It is safe
Yeah.
for me to let go. It is safe for me to be supported on the table. Feeling the support of just Mother Earth, like just kind of feeling that womb-like energy. It is safe for me to exist, which actually is a big one. I don't think a lot of people don't give it credit because it's like, course it's safe for me to exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in our DNA that, our egos are always constantly looking for what's chasing me, what should I be scared of, what fires do I need to put out. So letting all that go and just really creating space for people is something that I love doing, because you feel a shift. I feel a shift immediately when even from doing an intake and I leave the room and they get to the table and then I come back in to like do my magic.
Yeah.
People are already, there's a shift in their space, the receptivity and being open.
Receptivity. That's the word. Yeah. I love how you said that. The words that stuck out to me the most was receptivity to be supported. Receptivity to be supported is what I heard loud. Like, that's what I would want to share with people about acupuncture too. Just allow it, that we receive the needles. It's in needle form, but it's actually even more so,
Yeah, it is. It's love. It's universal love. It's spirit. It's connection. It's needles. It's of course, medically speaking, acupuncture releases serotonin and endorphin, oxytocin, which we all love that stuff. So that's
no wonder I'm addicted.
Right? Because you don't always want to say. I always choose my audience. Like, there's certain people that you want to just be like, yes, let's get you on the table and love you up. And there's some people that it's like, okay, this is a more Western-minded person. Let's switch paradigms and talk about.
We meet them there, and then we make them become gooey like us.
You got to meet people.
I do nutrition science, and then I'm like, or
we could be intuitivarians together.
And we're going to eat cake. Let them eat cake.
Bless it and love it. And it's going to give us all the nutrients.
Right. Oh, I love that you started out with that proverb. I'm like, I just saw that proverb. I'll look it up again. We'll find it again. Funny. Anything you want to add to, David, since you are our lone soldier?
Well, I'm just loving everything. I think it's fantastic. And I love it is safe for me to exist, because I've also
That's a good one.
come across people that I think they're carrying this generational heaviness, right? And, from whatever happened in, previous generations, whether it was coming to this country with all of that hardship, or not, relatives that didn't make it to the country because of whatever it was that, and so that is a really powerful statement. It's safe for me to exist.
It's huge. And epigenetics, I don't know if you guys have done any research. So fascinating. Just the belief that the mother has while being pregnant are going to affect the baby's metabolism and their DNA and their genes, and how oh my God, they may get diabetes. Right. The mom didn't eat enough, and the metabolic, it's wildly fascinating. But yeah, I am with you with that. This is like generations and generations. This is old. Sometimes it's old and heavy. But the interesting thing is too, what I've really felt in my experience is just because it's old and heavy doesn't mean that it doesn't want to disperse.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I never thought epigenetics was gonna be a beautiful conversation in this lifetime of mine. Like, I remember when it first, when it first came out, I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to get so poo-pooed. And then it like grew, and it was the most, I was so grateful that it grew, because that's totally aligned with my beliefs so much.
So what you're saying is that my mother smoking Camel unfiltered cigarettes and drinking Jack Daniels, that affected me? Really?
It was her belief. It's how she felt about the Jack Daniels and the Camel. Not that she was doing it. It was how she felt about it. Was happy?
No, actually,
or like, my life sucks.
That's it. Oh boy, I can't wait till this kid gets out of it. No, but I think it was.
I'm pretty sure that's how you got your fire. I think
it was definitely. I had to get something out of that. No.
Seriously.
I mean, Jack Daniels is Frank Sinatra's favorite drink, so she was really big into Frank Sinatra.
Oh my gosh! Oh, that's the best. I did not know that. I didn't know that she did that.
Well, she claims that she didn't, but obviously, look at me. She had to do something like that. I'm a hot mess.
We'll just say hot. We'll leave it with a hot period.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not receiving that. I don't know why, but I'll thank you. Thank you.
You need to go get on Jules' acupuncture table.
I definitely do.
Yes.
I'm thinking like, how long will it take me to get there if I leave now?
He's in Jersey, but he's gonna come visit. So.
He's in Jersey. Okay, so it would take you probably like 3-4 days.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Well, I gotta wait for this. We're heading up to Vermont, and as soon as the snow stops, because I'm not gonna give up a day of this epic snow, I'll head on up. So where are you exactly again?
She's up the street from San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. God, you know what? Is everyone beautiful in San Diego? What is the deal?
San Diego, it's a land of, it's kind of unlike any other place. And growing up in New York, wait, Heather, where are you from? Are you from the East Coast?
Nebraska, same as Lynn. I grew up.
Oh,
yeah.
Going from New York, I remember when I came to San Diego, I was like, whoa, it's just different. It's just different. I do love New York.
Of course. It's a very island vibe here. People come here for a reason. I would say, to me, San Diego has a feminine energy. It's like the softness, exploration, versus the rest of the
let's lay out in the sun and kind of relax. But I will say some of my favorite San Diego people are East Coast
Totally.
We'll never get the authenticity, the little bitter humor, the funny sass, you don't get that, like the pure honesty and just kind of what it is. But there's a softness here, which is wonderful, but you don't have as much of that, like the crass.
That edge, yeah.
Edge, yeah.
And you know where that's going to bring me, Heather. I got to bring it up, right?
I know.
So, first time we're spending time with Heather, and wherever she's from,
the middle.
Yeah. And where did you graduate? What's your expression?
Oh, University of Nebraska, where the N stands for knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
I would always be hanging out with Ivy League people, and I would feel my own insecurities come up, and I came up with that. I just passed it along. Someone else might have came up with it.
I love that. So we have a way about sarcasm in our family, in our culture, and I don't know where it comes from. So first time we're with Heather, she tells us her story about sarcasm, which is hard to believe that sarcasm is not a universal language. But where did you learn about it?
I was 24 in Boston. I was watching people be sarcastic, and I was like, I don't understand. I go, why would you?
So mean.
Why would you say something you don't mean? I totally did not get at the things they were saying to me sarcastically. And I was like, oh, are you really asking that? Like, I was so naive of sarcasm. I would be like, I don't understand why you would say that if you didn't mean it. I remember saying those words at a party.
Oh my God. You're like E.T.
Like, who is this girl?
Wow.
Funny.
That was my first introduction to the East Coast. I was like, whoa.
It's rough and tumble.
I got some thicker skin. Now.
I think life is all about contrast. So I think it's
right.
Wonderful.
I completely agree. I love
and I think that's what makes that being there so sweet, is that you had the contrast.
Yeah.
Of the Bronx. Arthur Avenue. Come on.
I ate my fair share of pizza. That's for sure. My castle.
Yum.
So Heather, Arthur Avenue, you show up at all of these Italian restaurants, and basically you sit down and they do not bring you a menu. They start bringing food.
Oh my God, I want to move there. I want to move
garlic galore.
Yeah, but wait. So then, they go. And at some point you're ready to burst and you say, basta, that's enough, right? And then they bring you the bill and it's like, $80. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. But, they're just making it up. Because my brother went last week, he had the same meal, and he paid $50 for it. But I look, I look big. I can handle it. I'm an $80 guy.
That is such a good story. Oh my God, I've never heard that.
Gotta love Arthur. Just go in with an expectation of you're making their day. You will. Oh my God!
Really cool.
You will make their day, especially you, where sarcasm is new.
I would be like, what? I'm getting there.
You guys are making me hungry now.
The baby wants
about garlic.
You got to think of do what the baby desires. Do what the baby desires. Well, thank you so much, Jewel. And thank you everyone for watching and listening. Sorry, our last few minutes were all fun and joy. So you can fast forward. And then I'll put Jewel's link up to order her heart balm. What is it called? The heart balm?
Heart balm.
Oh, heart balm.
Yeah, heart balm.
I'm going to put that link up. And thank you for being such a beautiful resource for my group of all of us conscious nuts trying to be more intuitive together and be better people.
Thank you guys for having me, and I love all the joy and fun connection that you guys have. That was the most fun interview I've ever done. I've done a lot of interviews, but they've been really serious. This one was like, hey.
Yeah, I should have warned you.
Can I make one request? Because I think it would be really valuable to people that you're sharing that clock with. Would you mind maybe shooting out to Heather what the emotions behind
I
were?
I was going to bring that up.
I didn't write it down fast enough.
I didn't get fast enough either.
If you wouldn't mind sharing it, because I think that's so valuable.
Do you mind, Jewel?
Happy to.
Thank you.
It's such awesome information.
And then I'm going to book my own little Heather womb appointment, and then we'll talk about how we can build our own clock together. So
that would be fun to add the emotions and mantras in there and different.
There it is. I thought right when I got on the phone, I go, "Oh, we're going to build our own clock," because I want to put cravings in there. I want to put cravings in there. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Or even cravings, but also, so there's different, each of the organs have a flavor and a taste. So if you need some help with your heart, you have bitter, because bitter drains fire. So David, if you're feeling super fiery, like having things that are bitter, liver, if you're feeling kind of angry, irritable, sour. So spleen is sweet. That. Anyway, we can get all into it. I mean, there is so much. We'll start with the emotions,
but you read my mind, because you said you have the heated table, and I'm thinking to myself, do you have an air conditioned table? Because I mean that baby will burn up, it'll melt. We have to the leather off of my body.
You know what's so bad? Don't tell anyone who's super environmentally conscious, because I am. But there are times in the summer where I blast the AC and
that's my girl.
But we get the heat, because you want the body. You want, like, anytime there's muscle aches, pains, you want the vasodilation of the infrared in the heat. But we can't have anybody like sweating or like peeling over on the table, turning bright red. So
there's a comedian, God bless him, he passed away, but I love him. His name is John Pinette, and he said he would get so hot he could roast a chicken between his thighs.
Salt flavored.
So you'll have to share what I can do this. I don't really want to be cooking any more chickens. If you don't help me with that.
Not between the thighs, yeah.
No.
I'm still recording too. Oops.